you mentioned, like drinking from a fire hose. Well, there'll be plenty of those out here on Saturday. And just to give you the scope of not only the force, but also the size of these hoses, and they carry up to 75 pounds on their back as they're doing the climb. And it's just a great way for the children and the families to bond with the firefighters.
If people want to support, obviously come out. There are other ways to do that and climb as well. How can people get involved?
Well, absolutely. We have a Facebook page, and we have a website at 911 Grand Rapids Memorial Stair Climb, or they, to pre-register, or you may come out the morning of. Pre-registration goes through Friday, and on-site registration starts at 8 a.m. on Saturday the 6th. So please come on out, and you can register and climb that day. Children under 18 are free because we want the family together out there, and of course we have Marge's Donuts to sweeten it a little bit.
Yeah.
And we have an Aeromed helicopter, that will be fun for the children as well.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, details we'll put up on the stack today, JustinBarclay.com. Always a pleasure. Edwin, thank you so much for all you do, and of course we'll keep people posted on this magnificent event next year. Like I said, big year. Let's we'll have you back on and do some planning for that.
Thank you, Justin, and I appreciate all that you do in this realm each and every day, and it's so important to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. You got it. God bless. There it is. Grand Rapids 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb happening, and of course, if you want the details, we'll put it up online in the stack. But that website, gr911memorialstairclimb.com as well. All right, we've got an after show, and like I said, today was drinking from a fire hose. 3 guests moving full speed throughout the show. I want to dig into some of the questions. Obviously, there's some stories that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but one of the big ones we just hit on, and I think we'll probably, off the air anyway, we'll just probably get into this during the after show as well. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis say he will allow Florida voters to vote to abolish property taxes. And this came out yesterday, and of course, with the movement here in Michigan, what are the chances are we actually going to see that sort of spread over into Michigan? Could be a big story. We'll have the latest on that, and of course, even more. I got clip after all the audio and video from some of the press conferences yesterday that we didn't get a chance to get to as well. So all of that coming up on an after show, which you can stream Facebook, Twitter X, Rumble, Locals, YouTube, but also podcast it every day on the iHeartRadio app. So download it, or wherever your podcasts are. That's all on the way. In the meantime, Glenn Beck program is next. Make it a great one, folks. God bless.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
WOOD Grand Rapids, WOOD FM Muskegon. The news is next on Wood Radio.
While Lansing stalls, every pothole hits you in the wallet. Repairs, safety risks, our economy. The clock ticks, you pay. Tell your legislators to get it in gear. Visit FixedMy.
Okay, hang on. Stand by, folks. Clicking a few buttons, and then the after show rolls on. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Fast and Furious today. Yeah, the new store is open right now, folks. A lot of people grabbing the short sleeves, the long sleeves, the hoodies right now because the weather's starting to get a little chilly. Some nice coffee mugs to drink your coffee out of. The Fool Around and Find Out coffee mug and T-shirt is out there now. The Gulf of America, Alligator Alcatraz. Not far right so far. The original I Knew Conspiracy Theory tees and One Nation Under God, all of it and more. JustinBarclay.com/store. So make sure you get in there and check that out. Thank you for supporting us because, it's not easy. We got to get this. There's a lot that goes into this to get all this truth, logic, and common sense out to the world. So we appreciate you. And thank you for sharing, too. That helps us keep the show live and on the air. Here we go. Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. It is the show after the show. Welcome in. Yes. Never a dull moment. Never enough time to get to it all. But here we are. Yeah, it's like I said, we got so much still yet to get to. We got a fast and furious day. I'm going to talk a little bit about, if we can, some good news. I got a couple of good stories, some wow stories. There's a hero man in Florida that we want to salute. 76-year-old man tackling a man. This is cool. I think we have video for this too. Usually Florida man does some things that make you quite, but this Florida man deserves mention. We'll get to that coming up. A Rona report. You won't want to miss. Plus clips from Trump as the president takes on questions endlessly at all times. At press conference to the Epstein victims yesterday, and of course some of the talk that's come out of it and questions. People have still have some questions about some of this stuff, so we want to get into it, make sure we do that. Plus, as I mentioned, this no taxes, no property taxes, this is picking up steam, and the latest again, Florida man, to say that they may actually get this done is pretty, well, I would say it's pretty encouraging at the very least. First, My Pillow. My good friend Mike Lindell, who obviously could use the support. He's in the fight of his life, and he has been since about 2020 or so. They started canceling him. All these big box stores and more. You know the story, because Mike wanted to speak up to save the country. So they wouldn't allow it. And they said, we'll take Mike out. And we've been on the other end of some of those things as well. Not to the extent that he has, certainly, but canceled on certain social media sites and whatnot. You're always sort of under the microscope, under the gun. And he is too, but that's why he's digging in. And I think it's paying off. So anytime you get great deals on great gear or great goods from mypillow.com/Justin or mystore.com/Justin, you help support this program at the exact same time. Right now, Mike Lindell and My Pillow employees want to thank the Freedom Fam for all the continued support. Mike has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. And he didn't stop just by creating the best pillow. He created the best bed sheets ever, too. So backed by popular demand, they have brought back an offer that all of the Freedom Fam is absolutely loved before. The Percal bed sheets, any size, any color, just $29.88. That's right. You can get even queens, kings, split kings, Cal kings, any size, any color, just $29.88. Get them while they last. Because when they're gone, they're gone. It's the My Pillow Percal sheets. They're breathable. They have a cool, crisp feel. They have deep pockets to fit any over any mattress. You don't have that problem. You know what that can be like. They look around. They feel great, which means even better night's sleep for me, which is I absolutely love. We did last night. This is sort of a team thing. I could do it by myself. But when we do it together, it just goes a lot quicker. We did the whole, switching out the sheets and the duvet and everything and made everything fresh. And, when you do that, every week or every other week, whatever you end up doing your schedule, how nice it is when you put those sheets and warm right out of the dryer and everything. Oh, man, there's nothing better. Well, the only thing better is not having to pay an arm and a leg for them. Right now, for a limited time, you get that deals on the Percal bed sheets. And, of course, also, when you do your order over $100, you will receive free shipping on your order, plus $100 in free digital gifts as well. Go to mypillow.com/Justin. Use the promo code Justin. That's mypillow.com/Justin. Use the promo code Justin and get the Percal sheets, just $29.88. But order now. All right. I got a couple of things I want to talk about. First and foremost, I think out of the gates, got to be the property tax issue. Now, you think about this. How much do you pay each year, and what does that do, especially if it's baked into your mortgage? Just on the surface, you talk about getting rid of, how much am I paying each year? I think I'm paying It's tough for me to know because it is baked into the mortgage, but I just saw it. I want to say maybe it's several $1,000s. I don't know, it's 6 or more, whatever it is. What are you paying in property tax? If you got one home, it's one thing. If you get two, it's another. But what are you paying on property taxes every year? And if you own the home outright and you're retired and you don't pay those taxes, you don't have a way to pay those taxes, boy, they're going to come after you. They're going to get you. And it is, it's incredible to think about this, but you could actually lose your home. Someone that's, this is senior citizen, someone's gone through it all, could actually lose their home because they couldn't afford to pay the property taxes that they just keep yanking up on everybody. To me, that's just, it's unthinkable, but that's the world we live in. So Ron DeSantis sees the writing on the wall. By the way, this is a movement that's picked up steam throughout the country, and I think we're going to see it. Florida's going to vote on it. What do you think? He's going to put it on the ballot. What do you think they're going to say? And obviously, as you know, Axe My Tax. There's an effort to get it on the ballot here in Michigan. What do you think Axe My Tax is going to say? If they can get, what do you think Michigan will say if they can get it on the ballot? This scares a lot of people. It really does, and there's a reason for that. You just think about this, because this is one of those things. You start asking questions about property tax, you start asking questions about all kinds of other things. Lori says she spends $5,800 a year for a 3-acre lot. Keith this year said $2,700. I'm telling you. I gotta be I gotta be honest. I don't remember what it was. I just saw the number and I had to go back to figure it out. Now I will. I'll go back and take a look. Do away with property tax. You're looking at an 8 to 10% sales tax. Well, I'm not sure exactly what it is, Rhonda, but I don't think Florida's looking at that. Their sales tax is already, I think, a little higher anyway because they have no income tax. But if you do away with property tax and you do away with income tax, you can afford an 8 to 10% sales tax. And I think Florida, things like food, they kick out. So, like, you're not paying tax on that. And they do have tax holidays. So, like, when you're going back to school, they'll do a week or a month or whatever it is of tax-free when it comes to, certain school supplies, things like that. School clothes. Yeah, I know there's some of that. But there ought to be a way to work some of this out. And I think the other piece of this, too, and we have to be honest with this, is that we've got to probably make sure that we're cutting some things as well. What do I mean by that? Well, you've heard Carla talk about how, a lot of your property taxes aren't really going to schools. They're going to build, like, stadiums, football stadiums. Or in some cases, we're saying they want to put these giant pools in. I've seen some school systems try the $100 million on a pool or something like that. And that, to me, is just wild because they keep kind of dipping into this, what they believe is sort of like an endless pool of money. And again, it's just not the case. At some point, it's going to have to stop. Now, if you pass one of these deals, it'll definitely stop because people will feel it. They'll see it every day on their sales tax. See, one of the biggest tricks they ever played on us as Americans is that when you get especially now with direct deposit, like getting your check, instead of having to write, think about if you had to do this. This is just incredible, but just think about this. If every week or every other week, whenever you get paid, you had to actually write a check to the government for your taxes, boy, that would make things, they'd make things a lot more interesting, wouldn't it? Because then you might start asking questions. You'd start feeling the pain and writing that check, thinking to yourself, I don't know about this. Instead, right now, it comes right out. You never see it. You never see it. So you never feel it. Well, I won't say that, but it's not as obvious. And some of these kids, by the way, some of the greatest videos I've ever seen are these kids who get their first check. They get their first job. They go out, they get their first check. They get so excited about how much money they made and what's coming in that check because they know, all right, I'm getting paid X amount an hour, and I worked X amount of hours. So they start planning. They start planning in their head what they're going to spend all that money on, what they're going to do with it. and then they get the check in the mail. They go, or in their hands, and they go, what in the world? And they start going in line by line, and they see all the taxes that have been taken out. And holy cow! It's just mind-boggling. So I think if people had to see that up close and personal, it's like Dave Ramsey wants you to spend with cash and get your envelopes out because there's more friction there. It's harder. It's harder when you go to spend it. So you don't just like if you have a card, you just swipe and you don't think about it. Instead of actually giving the money out and then you know how much is left in your envelope and all that. What if our government had to do the same thing? What if you had to do the same thing? You know, writing that check every week or every other week, whenever your income taxes when you get paid. That would probably shock a few folks. Brenda says, sales taxes go up. You can choose to pay it by purchasing or not. Property tax gives you no choice. Well, somebody might say, Brenda, you could choose not to buy a property, but they'd be wrong because at the same time, when you rent from someone, you are paying that property tax. The landlord isn't paying it. He's passing it on to you. So you really are right, unless you're homeless. Troy asks a good question. How many states without property taxes? How's it working? Right now, and this is according to the research done by the crack staff here, also known as ChatGPT. We should probably ask Grok too. Let's see what Grok says as well. But right now, according to ChatGPT, there are no states that have absolutely zero property taxes. Well, let's see what Grok says. Thinking, searching. No U.S. states have zero property tax on real estate. Every state imposes some form of property tax, Grok says, through rates that vary significantly. ChatGPT gave us a little bit more. Every state relies on property taxes primarily collected by local governments to fund schools, police, roads, libraries, and other essential services. Thus, all states impose some form of property tax on real estate. Well, that is a very pro-property tax answer. Even in states with low rates or generous exemptions, some property taxation remains, often at the county or municipal level. Notable exceptions. Not quite. Delaware, no state-level property tax, but local entities still tax real property, so real estate laws remain in practice, or taxes remain in practice. North Dakota, the governor proposed a phased plan toward eliminating property tax on primary residence over the next decade, but as of now, no state has eliminated property tax entirely. That might be a good plan, a phased plan, so that you can figure out how you're gonna phase it all out and work into where you want to. One of the answers, though, it's going to be have to be cutting things like we're not going to build stadiums anymore. If you want stadiums built, then you need to take up a collection, or you need to get a sponsor, or you need to do something else other than tax people on their homes and then threaten to throw them out if they don't help pay for some stupid stadium. Now, I love football, and I love, high school, college, pros, and I love kids. I want them to be able to have those opportunities, but I don't want somebody to be at risk of losing their home because of that. In Florida, ambitious proposals exist to eliminate property tax alongside income tax, which would be unprecedented. These remain proposals, yet not in effect. They say, of course, they didn't see his tweet or the latest from DeSantis. Arkansas Investopedia suggests low county-level property taxes in place like Hot Springs, but it still levies property tax, so it's not exempt either. There are other ways, and I think it's a good question to ask. I think it's a fair question to ask. Okay, so what is the ultimate? How do you do this? How do you figure that out? Jason says property tax means you don't really own land. I think that's the biggest gripe. That's the biggest problem for most folks who are supporting this. I will say this. What, you don't believe in cash? I do believe in cash, Sean. In fact, I think in God we trust, all others pay cash. I don't know if you've ever heard me say that before. Buki, our school district in West Ottawa keeps voting for more money every time. I vote no on everything. And that's the problem. It's because when this stuff comes up, I'll give you you don't know how it works, particularly with the schools. They have them on off years at times, and not a lot of people are voting. And if it doesn't pass, and they by chance have it some other time, but they'll bring it back up again and again and again and again until it passes. And what they do is they all get in, and it's usually the teachers and the folks in the unions and a few others that are cheerleaders, rah-rah for the schools. And they go out and they hit these people. Now, what about me? I benefit from living in a good school district because my home values are higher. But we don't send our kids to public schools, and probably never will. But I'm still paying for it. You see what I'm saying? You might make the case, well, to get something out of it, because if you do sell your home, your value's higher, et cetera. So I get that. It's just, you're paying taxes on everything. John's right. You pay tax on everything except food. Just look at every one of your bills. Add up all those taxes, and sometimes you are paying tax on food. That's part of the conversation we had earlier today. All right, axmytax.org if you want to find out more. Now, I will tell you this. I do think that if the local governments would like to be able to figure out ways to raise money, they ought to be able to do it, and I'd like to see that really at the local level. I'll tell you what the actual answer is. The actual answer isn't 100% to get rid of property taxes, but this will never happen. So you have to look at the practical way. That's unfortunately where we are. The actual answer is for you and me and others to be more engaged in these elections, in these special, where they do the millages and things like that, the off-year stuff, not just presidential elections. In fact, the ultimate answer is for us to be engaged in the civics, really in the duty that we have. It's more than a response, it's a duty. That's how you keep property taxes low. That's how you keep government accountable, is if you go to the ballot box and you say no to all this junk. But will that happen? It's a whole nother question. What about no property taxes once you reach a certain age? That's another good idea. Although I would say, it shouldn't be based on age. It really should be, if I've got my house paid off, right, I should be able to own it and my property, but you never really do, unfortunately. This is the system that we have set up. All right, so that's a big story, and I'm going to be following. We can stay on top of this because just to address what Gritter's saying right here, because I think this is important too. How about user fees at the library, the museum, and the zoo? Well, you already pay to get into the zoo. Right? Don't you have to pay to get in there and you have memberships and whatnot? Museums, same way. Or maybe they have some people get in free. I don't know exactly. But the libraries, we use libraries extensively. And the kids love them. My wife loves them. But we would not be opposed to paying a membership fee to be a part of the library. Now, I know not everybody would like to do that. Maybe not everybody can. Maybe you do scholarships for some people, and that's just some others help pay for that. I don't know. Maybe you have businesses or you have donors who help pay for some of those scholarships. But my point is, Gooder makes a good case here. There got to be other ways to fund some of this stuff. So just think about it. 100% of property owners, he says, pay for 17 to 23% of those using. That's interesting. So, again, like I said, it's a big story. And as you see Governor Ron DeSantis forefront of this, it's going to kick that thing up even higher. And the conversation, particularly in the field of what you're thinking about and the consciousness top of mind, that sort of thing, it really is. It's going to become a big deal, particularly in the days ahead. So keep an eye on that. All right. Lots of other things I want to make sure that we get to because I got a limited time today. Don't forget, today at 11, Kristen Megan Kelly, she's been out front, and she's been talking about this chemtrails issue for years now. So there's a new documentary that she's a part of that's come out, and I thought, as a friend of the show, as someone who we have talked to and at great length, ever really since if you go back to the 2020 and all the insanity that occurred, her and our good friend Tammy Clark, and in fact we both think responsible for introducing them both, and these two friends who have now gone on their way to do some great things. And in fact, she was already doing a lot. They were both already doing a lot of these things before. But some of it, I think a lot of people probably haven't heard about, were her contributions when it comes to chemtrails, et cetera. And if you want to follow some of this, in fact, we're going to show you some of the documentary that she's in. There's part of it that's been released. We'll show it to you and share it with you. But I want to talk to her about that and what it was like to be a part of it. So I think you're going to enjoy it. It's happening today at 11, and you can watch, by the way, on Locals, where we'll put it up, justinbarclay.com/ there it is. Climate Trails is what they call it. Are you feeling under the weather? Ooh, that's kind of a good tagline, I think. Are you feeling under the weather? ClimateTrails.com. So coming up today, we'll have that conversation, like I said, at 11. And if you're watching this or listening to it afterwards, you'll be able to see that too when we.
When the threats started coming, I realized I needed to leave. And again, I had no plan. I had no job. I was very scared, and I came out in a time that I knew, regardless of what happened to me, I was going to be on the right side of history.
You can no longer call something a conspiracy theory when Harvard, Bill Gates, and the CIA director are all calling for these programs to start.
We have barium and strontium and aluminum and nanoparticles. I think some of these technically incompetent politicians don't understand what a nanoparticle is.
Don't you want to breathe clean air?
What I do see is massive evidence that we are exposed to an immense chemical soup of man-made poisons.
It's going into our water supply, it's going into our nose, it's going into our mouth, it's settling on our skin.
If you just take the time to look up, it becomes undeniable.
We the people have not consented to being test subjects.
Your own government's doing it.
They're spraying us like bugs, like cockroaches.
That doesn't raise any flags? That doesn't make you think? Scratch your head? What's going on?
Poof! There's all the aluminum over this concentrated area.
You have everyone looking up at the sky. I mean, it's literally over our heads.
Interesting subject, but I think what might also be interesting about this is kind of some of her background story, what she went through, trying to report on it, trying to blow the whistle on it. So coming up at 11, we'll talk to her, and I think a conversation you will not want to miss. Hey, getting prepared is something that I think about on a daily basis, particularly lately, as we've seen some of the craziness happen. It is National Preparedness Month, and I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the folks at My Patriot Supply, and of course, preparewithjustin.com are doing some really great things. In fact, they've got some great deals underway right now, $1,500. Look at that. You can enter to win a $500 shopping spree. at preparewithjustin.com. But they got $1,500 worth of free goodies when you get their big Mama Jamma. The Preparedness Month Mega Kit. And that's all of the emergency food, the water filtration system, help you sleep better at night if you think about it, really. You can purify almost any water source, a solar backup generator, and a lot more inside there. $1,500 worth of freebies inside. How much food do you have on hand for emergencies? What if the power just went out tomorrow? What if your tap went dry? What would you do? It's something that they think about quite a bit there at My Patriot Supply. Preparewithjustin.com. Anytime you go to preparewithjustin.com and you grab goodies. Obviously, you're going to get prepared. You'll be ready. You can sleep better at night knowing that you've done what you need to do, right? It's like pray like it all depends on God. Prepare like it all depends on me. That's kind of my motto. So if you're like me, you want to go out, get that checked off your list. And, of course, you can have a little peace of mind when you do it. But you also know that you're supporting the program when you do it, too. We get a little cut of each of it. And, of course, it helps us stay on the air. Preparewithjustin.com. Preparewithjustin.com. Do it today, and you'll be able to sleep a lot better at night tonight. I can tell you that much. That is for certain. All right, just a few minutes left here. But I wanted to make sure that we had some of the clips from yesterday, President Trump talking, some of the Epstein survivors as well, and the questions that folks are asking. But he was in the Oval yesterday and being asked by reporters questions about this tariffs case with the Supreme Court.
We have a very, very big case in the Supreme Court. I can only say this. Our country has a chance to be unbelievably rich again, but it can also be unbelievably poor again. If we don't win that case, our country is going to suffer so greatly.
I bet the Supreme Court, it'll be interesting. I bet they're going to side with him on this. And I'll tell you what's interesting is if they talk about taxes, they talked about getting rid of the income taxes. And we'd fund things strictly off of tariffs. You talk about a shock to the system. That would break things up in a whole new way.
Washington, D.C. is a totally safe city. You're not reporting any crime because there is none. They said crime is down 87%. And I said, no, it's not. It's down 100%. We have a great thing going. I could do that with Chicago. We could do that with New York. We could do it with Los Angeles. So we're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago or do we go to a place like New Orleans where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in and straighten out a very nice section.
So the Republican governor in a red state would call them in, would say, please, Mr. President, come here, help us out. We need your help in a very blue city, a pocket. Well, you could do that in any red. So, by the way, you always hear them bring this up. So they got problems in red states, too. They never talk about that. Well, you know, what's interesting is in those red states, the place where they have problems is the blue pockets. The blue pockets. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually worked out. One of the questions I asked him was about this Epstein thing. And you got to listen to this answer carefully because when you hear them say that he's called it a hoax, there's more to the story.
Mr. President, right now, there have been survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill. They're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massie, who was sponsoring a discharge position to get the House to vote on releasing those documents, says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow-walking the release.
Listen to the editorializing that. Maybe your friends and donors are in here? Come on, give me a break.
Protecting any friends or donors, sir? So this is a Democrat hoax.
Now listen to what he says, because how he's saying and what he's saying matters.
That never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but
that's what I said yesterday. So he's talking about the JFK files. He said it reminds me of the Kennedys. So you're talking about the JFK files. We've released more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. That's what I asked yesterday. So what really would it take? What do you want to see released that would satisfy you. And I don't think there really is. I don't think this is a kind of a losing proposition is essentially what he said. And I kind of agree with that. Because I think the folks that really want the truth like me and you, like, some of us, I just don't know what you could give us to show us exactly what we want to see, that sort of thing. And then folks on the left, they don't care. The only thing they want to see, and this is the only thing they really care about, is getting Trump. That's all they want. They just want to see get Trump at all costs. So he's right about that.
From what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given, but it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation.
Right, here's what he's saying. I'll translate this for you. If you might have got TDS or you're just not hearing it, here's what he says. We're trying to do a lot of things here. And I would say this, while this Epstein thing is important and we want to see justice for everyone in this situation, there's so much more going on right now that just take higher priorities, like getting the nation back on track. Because if you don't do that, you don't save this country, and forget about it. You're having a million Epsteins down the road. It won't matter. You won't be able to do anything about it. And by the way, they know that. That's why they're pushing this. And what he calls it a hoax is what he's saying. The Democrats pushing for this that part is the hoax. They haven't cared for decades before. All of a sudden they care now because they've got a way to use it as a wedge to try to damage Donald Trump and his relationship with his base. Now, I don't know that they're going to be successful. They really haven't been throughout the years. But what is interesting, that's what he says. Now, they always misrepresent anything he says, but particularly this.
I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C., it's a totally safe zone. It's called a safe zone. That's a term. It's a term of art. It's a safe zone because it's very safe. You can walk down the street now and nothing's going to happen. No crime, no murders, no nothing. Because we had a lot of problems with certain places, and we still do. All run by Democrats, or for the most part run by Democrats. So what they're trying to do with the Epstein hoax is get people to talk about that instead of speaking about the tremendous success like ending 7 wars. I ended 7 wars. Nobody's going to talk about because they're going to talk about the Epstein whatever. I understand that we were subpoenaed to give files, and I understand we've given thousands of pages of files. And I know that no matter what you do, it's going to keep going. And I think it's enough because I think we should talk about the greatness of our country and the success that we're having. I think we're probably having, according to what I read, even from 2 people in this room, we're having the most successful 8 months of any president ever. And that's what I want to talk about. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
That's his biggest frustration, by the way, is that they're using this as a distraction. So the very thing that they're telling you, don't be distracted from, actually is the distraction. That's what I warned about a while back, just so you understand. And even some of the survivors of victims, you've got to realize there's big money in pushing this right now. How come we've never heard about these people before? Never heard about them before because CNN never gave them any sort of big platform. Gloria Allred wasn't behind them like she is now.
Lisa, I appreciate you being with us, both of you being with us. You heard the president call this a Democrat hoax that never ends. What did you think when you hear that?
For me personally, it was shocking and upsetting. I couldn't believe that he said that.
Well, he didn't necessarily say it the way it's being taken, especially the way mainstream media's been. We already went through that.
Just for so many years, he acknowledged that there were thousands of files and he was going to release them. And so
he has. This is my point. What could be done, what could be released is the question.
Hearing that today, I was just confused by it. I think he thought that we were targeting him, and we weren't.
Not you necessarily, but the media is, and Democrats are. And even Ro Khanna and Massey yesterday, when he put some of this together, I think there's some of that. Massey may be a little more, probably a little more authentic in his push for truth. This guy who I know that, is a good guy. But the question is what do these Democrats really want to do? Because there's no other way to take him down. He's got them spun out so hard they're defending crime. Major crime in some of these areas. How about this moment yesterday? Somebody mentioning Bill Clinton.
The abuse began He told me to keep it secret. He was too powerful. I was just
where's the media on Bill Clinton?
one of the many young women trapped in his orbit. I was even taken on a trip to Africa with former President Bill Clinton and other notable figures. In those moments, I realized how powerless I was. If I spoke out, who would believe me? Who would?
Now she's saying that on NBC News, on MSDNC. Where are the CNN folks? When they asking those questions, well, what about President Trump? They never ask about Clinton, which is interesting.
To see something turn around there.
You know,
and I'll say this, Eric.
He can prove it's a hoax by releasing it. Let us decide if it's a hoax or not. I mean,
I think he's released a lot of these files. There's more coming. But again, the question is, what do you want to see? Because if there's a client list, I don't think there is a client. I'll tell you why. For there have to have been a client list, that means the FBI or somebody, and if he was an intelligence asset, they never really were investigating fully in the first place. There were some investigations that were done. Trump helped with some of those that we know of. But if he really was an asset, they never would have had all those people in some sort of, there would never have been a paper trail on this. So they're looking for files. They're looking for the smoking gun of, here are the people who did this and that, and then the tapes and all of that. Do you think the FBI, particularly the Biden FBI, the Obama FBI, do you think these people had those files, those names, and they allowed? We just heard about burn bags the other day. Remember that story? Do you think they kept any of that stuff?
I love everything they're doing. I'm MAGA through and through. Before, I don't know. I'm original OG. Bannon calls me original gangster MAGA. I am. But you gotta give MAGA this. Yeah. You gotta give it. We spent years saying you can't put a trans parade in the middle of children's. All
right. That's part of yesterday. Eric Bolling and MTG. How about this attorney for one of the victims saying that Trump actually helped? Before he called it a hoax, you got to realize he's not saying that this didn't happen. Again, he's saying that the Democrats are using it that way. But actually, Trump was involved in helping prosecute.
Thank you all for being here. I'll go first, and then I'll let them. They're much more important than me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it.
I think it's because you're not looking at through the lens of what he's actually saying, and on top of it, what's really going on.
I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other. Thank you all for being here.
Again, I don't know how much of this we're really going to get. I don't know how much of it we're really going to see. I hope that we have transparency. I hope these people get the accountability that they're looking for. But I'm just telling you, I think some of this is going to end up being a thorn in the president's side, because I just don't think there's any satisfying any of these people. How about some COVID news before we're done? Run report quickly.
What I'm most excited about is an announcement that we're making now, which is that the Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them.
Big news coming out of Florida yesterday, and of course, I think folks paying attention to that, you're gonna consider that probably some good news. Are we headed in that direction in some of the other places, and maybe throughout the country as well? RFK Jr. would say yes. A hero man, 76-year-old out of Florida. Florida man usually doesn't get this type of credit. Florida man usually doing some other sort of things. But 76-year-old being praised for valiantly tackling a youth thief who was being pursued by the police in a store as a seen on the body cam footage here in this. Get on the ground. There he is, 76-year-old man. Wow! Takes him down to the ground, a pound town. Gray hair and everything, the man. What a hero. Assisting the police officer in that situation. Never a dull moment, folks. Gotta love it. Fantastic. Back with you, 11 today. Don't go anywhere. Our good friend Krista Megan Kelly joins us.